a worn-out town, paint peeling off them old brick signs. Folks work hard, keep their heads down, trying to hold on to better times. Used to leave your door unlocked at night. Now everybody's got a camera on. Still got faith if we get it right, we can fix what's gone wrong. Ain't about talk, ain't about show. It's about the way we live, the way we know. Let's get back to dirt roads, back to porch lights. Neighbors standing up when it ain't polite. Cold beer, hot true styles up above. A little less noise and a whole lot of love. Red, white, blue ain't a trend we chase. It's sweat on your shirt and calloused hands grace. If we're gonna stand, we don't stand apart. We gotta get back.
Welcome into Apex News Above the Noise. I am Kyle Thompson.
And I'm Craig Blanton.
Craig, it is a hot one here in the Bluegrass today, and it's only going to get hotter over the next couple days, my friend. Are you staying cool over there?
Yeah, well, I'm looking at my weather thing. It's 107, feels like here in Lawrenceburg, it's 117.
Well,
but it, like I was telling you earlier, it doesn't feel like it to me.
Well, I know. But
the grandkids are over here in the pool.
It's always cooler on both sides of your pillow, too, so I know that always helps.
Yeah.
Out. So,
how do you know that?
Well, I just know. Craig, we have an enormous Monday show, as we always do. Supreme Court handed down 3 landmark decisions this morning that reshaped the relationship between the presidency, the federal government's regulatory apparatus, and the American electoral process all in one morning, including a ruling authored by a Trump appointee that handed him a, quote, tremendous loss on mail ballots 5 months before the midterms. Then we're going to follow up on Iran, where the weekend brought ballistic missile strikes on U.S. military bases in Bahrain and Kuwait. 2 commercial vessels were attacked. A Trump Truth Social post threatening the end of the Iranian regime. And somehow both sides agreed to meet again Tuesday in Doha. Then a breaking story today. The Department of Justice has opened a federal grand jury in the Southern District of New York into Neville Roy Singham, a China-based American tech billionaire who has allegedly funneled nearly $600 million through Goldman Sachs and shell companies into a network of Marxist, socialist, and communist organizations operating inside the United States. And the New York Times documented this back in 2023, and the SDNY is now on it. Then we're going to cover the latest wave of the DOJ's NBA gambling sweep, which just come down in the last couple of hours. Former players Malik Beasley and Ed Davis indicted today on charges that Beasley literally decided how many rebounds to grab in live NBA games based on what the bettors needed. We're going to close tonight with more Nikola Kusturica news and what is happening with the circus that is surrounding the Serbian young man. So before we get into it, if you are watching us for the first time, welcome into Apex News Above the Noise. We built this show specifically because we believe you deserve real news without the spin. If tonight's show gives you something to think about, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you like and share this with someone who needs to be above the noise. It costs you nothing, and it means a lot to us. Just over the weekend, Craig, we found out that we are in the top 10% of podcasts that are our size across the world on YouTube. So
that's great. That's great news.
About that. That's always good. But we will start tonight with news out of the Supreme Court, and it is earth-shattering here in the United States. The United States Supreme Court handed down 3 landmark decisions this morning as it races toward the end of its term. And taken together, they reshape the relationship between the presidency, the federal government's regulatory apparatus, and the American electoral process in ways that will be felt for decades unless something changes. Tomorrow is the final day of the term, with 4 cases still pending, including the birthright citizenship challenge, which we fully anticipate will come out tomorrow.
Yeah, that's supposed to be out around 10.
Yeah. But today's decision are significant enough to carry an entire broadcast on their own. We won't bore you with all of that, but we will talk about them tonight. Let's give you the overview before we go deep. First, in Trump versus Slaughter, the Supreme Court voted 6-3 to overturn Humphrey's Executor, a 91-year-old precedent that has shielded members of independent federal agencies like the Federal Trade Commission from being fired by the president without cause. It is now gone. The president can fire FTC commissioners, EEOC members and similar agency officials at will for any reason or simply no reason at all. Second, in a companion case, Trump versus Cook, the court voted 5-4 to block President Trump from immediately removing Lisa Cook from the Federal Reserve Board of Governors, but only on a procedural ground. The question of whether the president can ultimately fire a Fed governor was not answered today. And third, in Watson versus the Republican National Committee, the court voted 5-4 to uphold Mississippi's law allowing mail-in ballots postmarked by Election Day to be counted up to 5 days later. The majority opinion was written by Justice Amy Coney Barrett, a Trump appointee, joined by Chief Justice John Roberts and the three liberal justices over the dissent of Justices Alito, Thomas, Gorsuch, and Kavanaugh. 5 months before the midterm elections, almost right at it. That is the landscape as of tonight. But let's get into each of these decisions first. Craig, 3 rulings in one morning. The president now has the power to fire independent agencies at will, or agency heads or agency members, if you will. The Federal Reserve's independence is intact for now, but under active threat. And a Trump-appointed justice just sided with the liberals to uphold mail-in ballot grace periods 5 months before the midterms. Before we go through each one, just as an overall impression, what does today tell you about this Supreme Court and this moment in American governance?
Great lead-in, because we hear the left is always wanting to pack the court. They say the court's not fair or anything, but we see again and again, either there'll be 9-0 rulings, which never make the press, or in this case, you'll have the Chief Justice and another Trump-appointed justice go with the 3 liberal Supreme Court justices and rule against what the president wants. So I'm not I looked everywhere after this ruling came out. Not one liberal media agency came out against the Mississippi case, said anything negative about it. I looked for it, but boy, they blasted the others. So then you got the one where the president can fire all these people. When this started, there were like 16 or 15 NGO type groups. Now there's over 400. And from what I read, you tell me if I'm wrong or not, they go to the Senate approves them, president signs off on them, and they're basically autonomous. Nobody can tell them what to do. So this allows Trump. Is that true?
That's essentially true, unless you can change the makeup of the organizations that are receiving these funds, these different agencies that are running this.
Yeah.
And you're kind of beholden to whatever that group has decided to do. And some of them are lifers.
Yeah, and one of them, Fox News, they highlighted some of the silly ones. One of them is a salmon run in Oregon. One NGO is in charge of the salmon going up the streams, and the other one is in charge of them going down the streams. And they get hundreds of thousands of dollars just to, basically pay their friends. Is what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, let's start with the most constitutionally significant decision of the 3, and that's the one we're talking about. In 1935, the Supreme Court decided Humphrey's Executor versus the United States, a case arising from President Franklin Roosevelt's attempt to fire a Federal Trade Commission member over ideological disagreements. People forget that FDR was very much like that.
Right.
The court held unanimously that while the president has full power to remove purely executive officers, that power does not extend to members of independent agencies whose duties are neither political nor executive, but predominantly quasi-judicial and quasi-legislative. That decision became the constitutional foundation for every independent federal regulatory agency created in the 91 years that followed: the FTC, the EEOC, the NLRB, the SEC, the FCC, and dozens of others. Well, the Fed's not a federal government. We'll get into that.
Right. Yeah.
Today, in a 6-3 ruling authored by Chief Justice John Roberts, the Supreme Court overruled Humphrey's Executor in its entirety, in saying, quote, "If anything more is left of Humphrey's," Roberts wrote, "the court overrules it. The case arose from Trump's March 2025 firing of FTC Commissioner Rebecca Kelly Slaughter, a Democrat appointee in 2018, without cause. A lower court had found the firing unlawful under Humphreys. Today, the Supreme Court said that lower court ruling was wrong and that the president's Article II authority over the executive branch extends to these agencies. Justice Sotomayor dissented with characteristic force, calling the decision grievously wrong and writing, quote, "The court gives the president a power unknown even to the English crown against which the founders revolted." That's timing, foreshadowing. Yeah. Elevating him above his once co-equal branches. Sotomayor's concern is not without some weight. But the constitutional argument that a president should be able to remove officials exercising executive authority is not frivolous. And in fact, the argument is the one that was made by Alexander Hamilton made in Federalist number 70. Just a little side note right there. Alexander Hamilton. The 91-year precedent that will build the modern administrative state is now gone. The FTC, the EEOC, the NLRB, the president can now fire their members for any reason. Sotomayor calls it a power unknown even to the English crown. Majority says it's basic Article 2 accountability. And Craig, if this is the right constitutional outcome, what does it mean for how these agencies actually function going forward, including what happens at the end of a term? Because remember, some of these people sat on these boards for 20 years.
Yeah, it reminds me of the Kentucky state government in the 1960s.
Absolutely.
You had a nearly complete changeover every time the governor happened. But the president also, the American people vote for a president, and he wants his policies that the American people voted for enacted. But these groups that are created by the Senate, signed off by the president, and then can pretty much do whatever they want without government control, it stops a lot of whoever the president, Democrat or Republican, tries to get done, because these groups just say, no, we're not going to do it. We're going to rally people against what you're trying to do. So now the presidents will be able to put their people in to get their agenda completed before their 4 or 8 year term is up. And that's what we should all want.
One would think, if the nation elects a president or, a president, vice president, you are saying you want them to pass whatever their promises,
what they ran on, yeah.
And now they're going to be able to do that at least a little bit more efficiently, it would seem.
Yeah.
The companion ruling is the one that gets a little muddier, and that one involves Lisa Cook and the Federal Reserve, where the implications for your wallet are way more immediate. And this one's kind of interesting because the court ruled 5-4 that President Trump cannot immediately remove Cook, a member of the Federal Reserve Board of Governors he fired last year, but the majority was careful to note that this was only a procedural ruling, specifically that Cook had not received sufficient due process before her removal. The constitutional question of whether the president has the authority to fire a Fed governor was deliberately left open. The 5-justice majority was Roberts, Kavanaugh, and 3 liberal justices. Kavanaugh's vote is notable. He sided with Roberts to carve out the Federal Reserve from today's broader ruling, citing what he called the potentially catastrophic economic consequences of politically driven monetary policy. That's a fair point. Cook herself said after the ruling that the Fed must, quote, make all its policy decisions guided by evidence and independent judgment, free from political interference, end quote. President Trump was not satisfied. He posted on Truth Social within hours, quote, the Cook lawsuit was sent back by the Supreme Court on a strictly procedural basis. We will take appropriate action immediately to make sure that someone who has broad removal authority over executive branch official, someone who has committed wrongdoing will not remain. Let me read that again. The Cook lawsuit was sent back by the Supreme Court on a strictly procedural basis. We will take appropriate actions immediately to make sure that someone who has committed wrongdoing will not remain. Appropriate action immediately from a president who now has broad removal authority over executive branch officials in the context of an institution whose independence is the cornerstone of global confidence in U.S. monetary policy is not a language the market will take lightly. The fight over the Fed is not over. Today's ruling was temporary reprieve for all parties, if you will. Craig, the Federal Reserve is intact for now, but only on procedural grounds, and the president has already said he will take appropriate action immediately. The court deliberately left open whether a president can fire a Fed government on the merits. From a purely economic stability standpoint, what is the risk if you allow not just Trump, but any president that comes in to start removing members of the Federal Reserve Board for political reasons? And what does that do to global confidence short term?
First, you can't fire by tweet. And that's what he did. He fired her by a true social post.
You're absolutely right.
So you can't do that. You got to, just like anybody that owns a business or a government agency, you've got to follow procedures or you'll get taken to court.
Yep.
Now, if the president fired, say, 7 of the 12 Fed Reserve governors, then who knows what you get? Do you get runaway inflation because they want the particular president wants the interest rate dropped to 2%, but then you get uncontrolled inflation like we saw during the Biden era, and we had 1 year at 9% and 21% cumulative over his whole term. Do we want that again? I don't think anybody really knows what would happen, but then if you research the Fed was created by the rich guys that controlled the country in the 1920s. Isn't that correct?
That's absolutely correct. 19 teens.
Yeah, so they could control the U.S. money across the planet. But now, since the dollar is the money for the whole planet, big ramifications here. So I don't think anybody really knows what it would mean to knock off a bunch of, not knock off, wrong term, fire 7 of the 12 governors.
Careful with your.
Yeah, you don't want to say knock off.
It's like part of
get rid of 7 or more of the governors to just get your policy one, because then you're getting into dictator territory.
Yeah, well, and Good Deeds makes a good point here. Is that the opinion is that it'll change if the coin flips, and that is a problem. You want to have safeguards in place. Doesn't matter which side of the political aisle you're on. You want to have those safeguards in place, and you and I both agreed when he fired Lisa Cook that was not no bueno. You can't be fired on social media. That's not going to hold.
That was just dirty politics there.
It was, and you got to, whoever you are, you would hope that your leadership will be above that. And then there's the Watson versus the Republican National Committee, and this is the one that's had you wound up all day, Craig. I know, because you've been sending me messages.
Yeah.
This is the ruling that may have the most immediate political consequences, arriving 5 months before November's midterm elections. Mississippi law allows absentee ballots postmarked by Election Day to be counted as long as they arrive within 5 days afterward.
That's my question.
Yeah, well, the Republican.
Yeah,
the Republican National Committee and the Mississippi Republican Party challenged that law, arguing that because federal law designates a single election day, all ballots must be received by that day. The Fifth Circuit sided with the Republicans. Mississippi appealed, and today, Justice Amy Coney Barrett, appointed by Donald Trump, wrote the majority opinion siding with Mississippi, joined by Chief Justice John Roberts, already someone who doesn't necessarily agree with the Republican side, and all 3 liberal justices. The electorate's choice is made when voting is complete, not when ballots are received, Barrett wrote. Quote, the election day statutes say nothing about ballot receipt, and we cannot add to the words Congress chose, end quote. Justices Alito, Thomas, Gorsuch, and Kavanaugh dissented. About 15 states in the District of Columbia currently allow this kind of grace period. Trump called the ruling a tremendous loss and immediately pushed for Congress to pass the Save America Act, the same bill he used to blow up the bipartisan housing bill signing 2 weeks ago, which we'll talk about in a second. The RNC's chairman called it Democrats inviting chaos at the ballot box. Studies show mail voting fraud is exceedingly rare.
It's only because they've not looked.
Yeah. Accounting for less than 1/10,000th of 1% of mail ballots cast.
Bullcrap.
Yeah. That's blown up just by, all the homeless people who voted in LA's mayor's race, but whatever. Yeah. But legitimate concerns about election night uncertainty and extended counting windows remain real. And with midterm elections just 5 months away, this ruling matters enormously to both parties. Craig, Amy Coney Barrett, a Trump appointee, joined Roberts and all 3 liberal justices to uphold mail-in ballot grace periods. 5 months before the midterms, Alito, Thomas, Gorsuch, and Kavanaugh all dissented. Trump called it a tremendous loss. The legal reasoning Barrett used is textually defensible. Federal law says nothing about when ballots must be received, only when votes must be cast. But Craig, for the 40% of Americans who have serious concerns about election integrity, and it's more than 40%, and it's growing. We're almost at 50. We're going to be at 50% within the next year. What does extending the counting window by 5 days after Election Day do to their confidence in this result?
Well, my question, because I didn't know about the 5-day part of this, does that mean California only, or is it just strictly Mississippi and it won't be carried nationwide? California's got up to 30 days. Does this mean they'll have to get it all done in 5?
No. No.
So it's just referring
It's
to
whatever.
Mississippi.
It's whatever the state law is. So if the state law says that you have up to 30 days, then that's how long you're going to have.
It's a state rights kind of thing.
That's correct.
Okay. So what it tells me is it's just, I saw plenty of videos by news agencies, California TV news, like NBC4 and different ones like that, showing going to people's houses. And this one guy received 5 ballots, one for himself and 4 others. He said, I could fill these out, every one of them, and send them in. Who's going to check them? Because they don't check them. Yeah. They say they do signature verification, but then Governor Newsom says, no, we don't, because we got to get them counted. So supposedly they didn't count any this time. And that's why they got done in they got done in like 26 days or something like that.
Well,
and I think it opens the door.
Only giving certain votes to certain it's a lot easier.
I think this opens the door to ballot stuffing, not ballot harvesting. That'll still go. But now you'll see in the middle of the day, like they're accusing one of the Hamtramck, Michigan commissioners of late night ballot stuffing, where he pulls up in a car, and I guess they had cameras on these things.
Yep.
And he's shoving in, he's got so many to shove in, he can't shove them in at one time. He's shoving numerous of them in on multiple attempts to get them in there. And of course, he got the most votes that time.
We have a couple of folks, Alvy, thanks for watching again. It's good to give power to the states as long as you can make sure their votes are legal. Totally agree with you.
100%.
Snake Oil Shyster, imagine the cheaters policing themselves. Voter fraud is extremely rare. If it's so rare, why are they so against ID requirements? Totally agree. I 100% agree.
And remember the Philadelphia thing where they didn't count, they stopped counting at 1 a.m. because like a dumbass, I'm watching that in Atlanta.
And Detroit.
And then they paper over the windows. And then it's released later where they're bringing in dollies full of votes. And then somehow the vote changed, even though they never counted the votes.
Yeah. I mean, it's
in Atlanta and Philadelphia, and it swung an election.
It's shocking. And now the FBI obviously is doing interviews with the folks down in the Atlanta area and in Georgia. Some of that information has leaked to some extent. One individual essentially said there was an entire plan that they already had in place. And so, I think people are starting to rat each other out. I told you when this came out this afternoon or this morning that if I was a tinfoil hat wearer, if I was Craig Blanton and I had my tinfoil hat, I would almost guarantee that this is the impetus now that John Thune and the Republicans will have to go through with bringing this to a vote on the House, on the Senate floor. It makes no sense at this point why you wouldn't. And if you don't, Thune has to be primaried in his next election.
Right. Yeah.
This will affect the 2028 and 2030 elections. Now, after 2030, and as you and I talked about, the way that redistricting, the way that the reallocation is going to go because of the 2030 census, I believe the 2032 and the 2034 and 2036 elections will be significantly different for the Democrats, not in a good way because of the way those things are happening. But if they're already in power for 4 years, you can change a lot of stuff in 4 years. And
you're going to see a lot of electoral votes leave the blue states and go to the red states. That's going to be one thing. I think it's 11 right now on the predicted swing. California losing several.
At a minimum. It could be
Illinois, New York, all of them lose because so many people are moving out of those crazy states. And this will, I think it's just going to open the door to ballot stuffing. And if Thune does not call it to a vote, he'll get primaried. But at a minimum, he should call it to a vote, and then it will, all those that vote against ID before you vote, the Republicans will use that against their Democrat opponents. And that alone is enough reason for the Republican leader, I would think, strategizing between you and me and everybody. If I'm the Republican leader and I want to get Republicans elected, I'm going to put them on the book saying they don't want voter ID.
No, I agree. And just before we hop off this topic, we mentioned the bipartisan housing bill that the president refused to sign last week, that he used the Save America Act to essentially blow that up.
Yeah.
Did you see Tim Burchett coming out of the House last week
All the
saying
time.
that he didn't vote for it because it threw in a pilot project that was like $20 million from Rashida Tlaib that essentially provided housing to illegal aliens.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
exactly what it did. And so
You
that
know,
was the main reason that he voted against it.
Yeah. Tim Burchett usually goes on his phone as he's walking out of
Oh, I
whichever.
love
Yeah, and talks about what he just voted on and why he did or did not support it.
Yeah.
That kind of transparency is pretty cool. And then John Kennedy does it in all the hearings. You hear, in his 5 or 7 minutes that he gets to talk.
He is an American treasure.
Yeah, both of them are. And,
Yeah, I agree.
But you got to watch them to really see the inside workings, because you don't really ever see it, what they're doing. And you don't hear about these little, and I'm using little in quotes because it's a lot to you and I, little $20 million deals that these far left wingers want to do to allow the illegals to have housing and stay here and plant here and get by that 2-year window that they're going to incorporate, that I guess the Supreme Court ruled on that too, that they can start immediately sending these people.
Yeah.
Yeah. They can send these people out.
Well, and the offensive thing to that whole thing is that we all know how difficult it is. Our housing costs, our gas prices, all these things, because
housing availability.
That's the true big one right there. And yet we're providing $20 million to a pilot project to allow illegal aliens to have housing, and they're not going to pay for that housing. I mean, that's Springfield, Ohio. They were already struggling with housing, and you moved in several thousand Haitian families in there. It's not the Haitian families' fault. Listen, if somebody's going to give you the perfect dream and you're going to follow it, good on you. The problem is that we have people in Washington and leaders in Washington who are allowing this to happen, and it only hurts the American citizen.
You're going to hear the term you're going to start hearing is, and it's already all over Europe, there's too much empathy towards these third world countries that want to come here. We allow them into our country. Europe allows them into their countries, except for Poland and Russia and China. But they don't want us in their countries. You can't go like in Hamtramck, Michigan, and Dearborn. You hear the Muslim call to prayer. Well, now their city council wants them to stop Christian churches and Catholic churches from ringing their bells at all.
Yeah.
But you can't do that in one of their countries. We can't, they're killing Christians and burning their churches in Africa like we breathe air. I mean, it's every day. But we continue to welcome them here, continue to let them do their thing. We talked about the march they did in Dearborn, and people were posting on X, where is this taking place? And they didn't tell them. And all these people were saying in some African country or North African country, and it was in Dearborn, Michigan, in the United States.
Yeah. America needs to wake up that what is happening right now in England and Ireland and France is also happening in the United States.
Portugal,
Spain. It is now happening.
Germany, Italy.
Where they were 10 years ago. And
did you see where, I can't remember the country, but they were going to send back 800,000 Syrians. I think it was Germany, 800,000 Syrians. Yep. And I think, is it Assad that's over?
Yes. Yeah.
Syria?
Well,
whoever's over Syria.
Yeah, it was Bashar. It was Assad.
No.
SCOTUS but the problem for that is Bashar al-Assad is actually in Russia. Kind of
said no. Don't send them back to Syria. He don't want them back.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know why he don't want them back, but he don't want them back.
Well, I have a feeling I know why. Well, as we transition into the next story, that we were talking about 3 Supreme Court rulings in one morning. Tomorrow will be a big one. Tomorrow will be a big ruling. Join us as we go over that and discuss it with you guys tomorrow afternoon. It will be a major impact.
Massive. Either way. And honestly, the way this one went wouldn't hold out a lot of hope that Roberts and Coney Barrett are going to, toe the conservative line on that. But we shall see.
Now we go overseas because the weekend produced some of the most dangerous moments in the Iran conflict since the MOU was signed just a couple weeks ago. And tonight we are cautiously back to the negotiating table. And I mean that with all due respect, cautiously. When we left you Friday night, Iran had struck one commercial vessel in the Strait of Hormuz, and the UN had paused the evacuation of 11,000 stranded sailors. Tonight, after a weekend that nearly collapsed the entire ceasefire framework, the situation is both worse and somehow slightly more stable, and we'll talk about why that is. Let's walk you through what happened on Thursday. An Iranian drone struck a merchant vessel near Oman, on the Omanian coast, not even near Iran. The U.S. military retaliated with limited strikes on Iranian military targets. On Saturday, Iran struck a second vessel, the Panamanian-flagged Kiku, carrying oil tanker carrying crude oil for Qatar's state energy company, the very country serving as the primary mediator between Washington and Tehran. That attack on a Qatari chartered vessel was either a profound miscalculation or a deliberate message. In response, U.S. Central Command struck 10 separate Iranian military targets, surveillance infrastructure, communication systems, air defense sites, drone storage facilities, and mine layer capabilities along Iran's coast. My question is, why do they even have those?
Exactly. I thought we got them all.
Yeah. Iran's IRGC then launched ballistic missiles and drones at two American military installations, the Ali al-Salam Air Base in Kuwait and the U.S. Fifth Fleet in headquarters at Port Salman in Bahrain. Kuwait intercepted two ballistic missiles, no casualties. In Bahrain, Iranian munitions hit an 8-story residential building near the international airport, destroying the top floor and blowing out windows. No one apparently was killed, thank goodness. But a Qatari citizen on a vessel in the area died from shrapnel. The U.S. struck 5 additional Iranian coastal targets in response. By Sunday evening, both sides had agreed to stand down. The ceasefire, such as it is held, I don't know how you can still call it a ceasefire when we're firing, but it held by the thinnest of margins. Craig, Iran attacked a Qatari chartered oil tanker with Qatar. Last time you and I talked, you said, well, at least it wasn't an oil tanker. Then they hit an oil tanker.
Let me throw this at you.
Yeah.
Been some stuff, I've read some stuff, and it makes all the sense in the world. We didn't respond until Friday after close of business. Because it didn't affect the stock market, didn't affect anything, didn't make big news like it would if we'd hit them Thursday when they started launching at when they hit that cargo ship. And then we bombed them Friday and Saturday. And then all of a sudden we got the agreement again, and it held Sunday to where they could meet this morning, which is now this evening, or probably 1 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. They're 7 hours behind us, so it's close to 1 in the morning over there. So whatever they did today, they haven't told us about. But it was like they played business, also played the media. Oh, we're going to bomb the crap out of them after business Friday, and we'll stop Sunday before the stock market opens again and the oil markets open again. Oil markets open up at 6 o'clock on Sunday night, and right. Stock market at 9 on Monday. Our stock market.
Well, I think that is obviously strategic. I mean, it's clear what they're doing. It's like when you drop a big news story on Friday at 4 o'clock, right? Where nobody sees it.
Yeah.
I think that's obviously what they're doing. I will also say that I don't think that can hold. It becomes preparatory in nature. You feel it coming, and then something really bad happens.
Yeah, if they launch, they said they hit those ships because they weren't following the prescribed Iran path in the Strait of Hormuz. They were going on the American safer side that had been cleared of mines. So they started, they launched those drones at them. And our question, why do they still have them? Where are they coming from? I thought we bombed the crap out of all their missile bases.
That's what I don't understand. Like, why are there still targets that we can still pick out?
And why if there's more targets, why did we stop?
Yeah.
Why don't we just hit them all this time?
Well, and I agree with your point. There comes a point where we get tired of launching ballistic missiles, and it's a lot cheaper to just buy rifles and ammunition and drop them off airlifted into downtown Tehran, in these outskirt areas. It makes no sense to me at all at this point.
Yeah, we can launch missiles from 600 miles away and have it hit a 2x4 window.
Yeah.
Well, if we know where those places, and we know where they are because Israel knows,
Right.
and they share the info with us, why are we not just taking every one of them out? I don't understand it, because we know sometime this week they'll shoot at another ship or they'll bomb I don't even know why the hell they attacked Bahrain other than our Air Force base there. But Iran is now standalone. All they've got is minimal support from Russia and China and not much from them. None of the Arab countries want anything to do with Iran right now, but they're still holding firm and we're letting them.
Yeah. The language coming from both sides over the weekend deserves to be examined closely. President Trump posting on Truth Social Saturday as U.S. warplanes were striking Iranian targets. And I got 2 notifications during the day that they were striking on Saturday. Issued one of the most direct military threats of this conflict, saying, quote, "There is a point at which we can no longer be reasonable and be forced to militarily complete the job. If that happens, the Islamic Republic of Iran will no longer exist," end quote. Vice President Vance posted that Iran should pick up the phone if it had any objections, and that violence will be met with violence. These are not diplomatic statements. These are warnings that the United States is at the edge of its patience and has the capacity, and under certain conditions, will end this regime entirely. And just to be clear, to anyone listening, if they are, I think I can speak for just about every American citizen right now. We're exhausted of this. We're at our wits' end right now. Like we have the ability to end this. We do not want to send our troops in. Just end this regime. Save the wonderful people of Iran. Let's move forward with a new regime. I'm tired of worrying about this word regime change that everybody gets hurt about and everything. Just do it and get it over with. Let our markets, heal and fix, some of these financial issues that we have. But we are restraining ourselves to the point that we are handicapping us moving forward.
Well, if we did do what it takes to get the RGC out, there's going to be a lot of damage in Iran, no doubt about it. But look, on the flip side, Iran's got the oil. They won't get no money. They won't get any money from the U.S. taxpayers. This will be a massive job creator for Iran to build back and build back better. Because don't forget, they're on a 7-year drought, and they're less than 12 months away from being completely out of water. They're already down to their emergency levels at the reservoirs.
Yep.
They're lower. If you know anything about reservoirs, you got your top that you normal draw from, then you got your emergency down here. They're at their emergency on their reservoirs. So if we can wait them out and it doesn't rain over there, then that'll take care of itself, because the world will not come and help them. I do not believe the world will go help Iran after all the stuff they've done across the world. But we can end it now.
We can.
And solve it now, and then you can go in and get water infrastructure. We're not blowing up their water plants where they're creating the fresh water, but it wouldn't be hard to hit them.
Let me ask you a question.
Desalination plants.
Yeah, if Iran had the same type of military capabilities of the United States, do you think that they would not hit our water desalinization?
Of course they would.
Or our
electric
infrastructure? Do you think that they would keep those intact for us?
No, not in 1 second. Not in 1 second. They would hit our dams, they would hit our reservoirs, they would hit our electric grid, and they would hit our water supplies. Yep. And if they didn't hit them, with all of them, there's got to be terrorist cells in the United States, because so 100%. Many came through Mexico and Canada. They would poison our water. And I've always told you a drone thing, if you want to hurt the Western United States,
you do it in the Midwest. You don't do it.
You send a bunch of drones up into the Rocky Mountains, set a timed explosive, a phosphorus or something, and right in the driest part of the year in August and September out there, have them go off and just burn the entire Rocky Mountains down.
Pure nightmare stuff.
Yeah, pure Hollywood movie stuff. Because, I wondered last year when the Canadian forest burned, there's no humans up there. There's none. There's no lightning up there. How did those forests so many thousands and tens of thousands of acres catch on fire if there's no lighting, there's no electric lines, and there's no humans? How did they just spontaneously, all of a sudden, all of them catch on fire?
Well, if you ask France, it's probably our fault. I don't know if you saw that today. France said that the heat wave in Europe is our fault. Anyway.
How? Oh, my God.
Knows? It's the French president. Who knows what they think. Two final threads to complete tonight's Iran picture. First, the assets. Iran's president, Pezeshkian, I've been working on him, Pezeshkian, told Iranian state media today that $6 billion of Iran's frozen assets currently held in Qatar are set to be released. Quote, based on the plans made, $6 billion out of the total $12 billion of Iranian resources in Qatar will be released and returned to the country, end quote. He said, the U.S. has not confirmed that any frozen assets have been released.
Right.
Iran says $6 billion is coming. The United States has not said that. The gap in confirmation is itself significant because this is the exact same pattern that we have seen throughout this process. One side announces that something's happening, the other side, doesn't confirm it or publicly contradicts it. What we do know is this: the weekend saw Iran attack 2 commercial vessels and fire ballistic missiles at the U.S. military installations. If $6 billion, and I keep thinking of Steve Austin, the
$6 million man,
and frozen Iranian assets is simultaneously being released while those attacks were happening, American taxpayers deserve a straight answer about what the United States is receiving in exchange. Second, the Trump administration asked Congress this week for $88 billion in supplemental funding to cover the cost of the Iranian war. That is not a rounding error. That is the real financial cost. And now they're saying that is $1,000 per household that this entire fiasco has caused us.
What's the government's number one job?
To protect the American people.
So big deal.
Before we get out of here, I'll ask you, Iran says $6 billion in frozen assets are being released. The U.S. has not confirmed that. The administration is asking for $88 billion in supplemental war funding. Iran fired ballistic missiles at our military bases while all this is going on. Craig, when you stack all of it up, how do you describe where this peace process actually is standing at this point?
I think it's still in the baby chair.
I agree.
Because they're whining on one side, saying anything America says, Iran says the opposite. We're getting near a deal. No, we're not. IRGC says no. We're not bombing yet. Well, IRGC says, let me show you now. So if we release $6 billion, we're going to look like the biggest chumps on the face of the earth.
Yes. Donald
Trump and J.D. Vance will never live it down if we release $6 billion of Iranian money through the global financial system. Qatar will be cut off from the United States. They are, I think it's Qatar that throws hundreds of millions or billions of dollars at our elite universities, I don't know what they're trying to do, but that stuff's just been coming out here lately.
Well, we'll talk about, trying to,
you know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Here in a minute.
So
yeah.
If we will be the biggest chumps on the face of earth after bombing the crap out of them, and then we give them $6 billion so they can rebuild Hezbollah so they can go start bombing Israel again. That'd be the dumbest move in the history of mankind.
I totally agree. Somehow through all of that, they're all meeting in Doha tomorrow. And obviously we will update you as things come in, but I can't imagine that this is, I totally agree. We're negotiating with the wrong people. IRGC.
Well, who knows? Who knows who's in power?
I've said that from the beginning. Who are we even negotiating with at this point?
Yeah, these guys do one thing. They control the military. Then the legislative guys say they're doing the negotiating. And then there's third parties that are pushing both. So who knows who's in power? And as long as there's not one uniform power structure in Iran, this is going to keep going on and on and on.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I don't know that we get anywhere further if we don't.
That's why we just take them out.
Yeah,
that's why we take out the IRGC. And there's every war, there's collateral damage. That's hard to say, but all you got to do is go back, look at Japan, and look what we did to Germany. We damn near bombed them out of existence.
Well, and because of that, we were able to help their own people afterwards.
Yeah.
So,
otherwise, Europe would be speaking German. And look at how Germany bombed the crap out of England.
Yeah.
I mean, and everybody in Israel has their own personal bomb bunker.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
war's tough. War's hell. There's
it is.
no two ways about it. And
It's been going on for 10,000 years.
yeah, Israel is going to fight to win. It's just, I firmly believe the United States is not going to fight to win, or we'd have done it in 60 days, the first 60 days.
Well, and we thought they were going to. I mean, you and I both thought, they'll get in and do this, but they just weren't able to do it. We just covered the ballistic missiles in the Persian Gulf. Now we're going to stay on the theme of foreign influence, something similar to what you were just saying with the Qataris, because a story broke today about money flowing from China through Goldman Sachs into American political organizations, and the federal grand jury in Manhattan is now in the picture. Let's go ahead and get right into that now.
Yeah, where's Letitia James in this?
Yeah, well, that's going to be interesting to see because it's federal charges, so it doesn't affect her that much. But we'll. It's funny. She's real interested in banking now. She's not so much.
Right, exactly. I didn't mean federal versus state.
Oh no.
Where's her comments about this?
Yeah, Fox News Digital broke a story this morning, confirmed across multiple outlets now, that every American needs to understand. A federal grand jury in the Southern District of New York is investigating alleged financial crimes by Neville Roy Singham. U.S. Attorney Jay Clayton's office in Manhattan is driving the probe, authorized by Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche. There's your guy again. The grand jury has already issued subpoenas seeking bank records and financial documents from organizations in Singham's network. The investigation is examining whether Singham, the organizations he funded, or their leaders committed wire fraud, bank fraud, money laundering, or other financial crimes. No charges have been filed as of tonight. So the question I think a lot of people and folks who are watching this is, who is Neville Roy Singham? He is a Chicago-born American who founded the IT consulting firm ThoughtWorks and sold it in 2017 for an estimated $785 million. He then moved to Shanghai immediately afterwards. He is married to Jody Evans, the co-founder of Code Pink, in February of 2017, and he spent the next 8 years pumping money from his base in China through a Goldman Sachs philanthropic fund and two shell corporations into a constellation of left-wing American nonprofits, media operations, and activist groups. The New York Times, not a right-wing publication, conducted its own investigation in 2023 and found that Singham, quote, works closely with the Chinese government media machine and is financing its propaganda worldwide, from a think tank in Massachusetts to an event space in Manhattan, from a political party in South Africa to news organizations in India and Brazil, end quote. The total documented amount, staggering, $591 million flowing across 5 continents from 2017 through 2025, all anti-American. Hard stop. I don't know what else to say about it. Of that, $278 million went directly into U.S.-based organizations that House Ways and Means Chairman Jason Smith has described as groups that sour discord in American society. Craig, you have talked to me privately and
many times
for a long time about this Chinese-based American tech billionaire, Neville Roy Singham, who has written a 172-page document invoking Mao Zedong's People's War as his blueprint for change, allegedly moving nearly $600 million through Goldman Sachs, an American financial institution, and shell corporations into American political organizations. The Southern District of New York has opened a grand jury. Subpoenas are now out. Before we get into which organizations received the money, just as a foundational matter, what do you think the significance is that the SDNY is now involved in this particular case?
Finally, the feds are checking him out. Since before we started this podcast, I had been reading up on Neville Roy Singham, right?
Absolutely true.
And this guy is a Chinese. He's not as big, but his net worth is not as big as George Soros, but he's on the other side. So now we got two guys that are anti-American, funding all kinds of protest groups like Code Pink that people have heard of, where Madonna said she wanted to blow up the White House, and of course, nothing happened to her. You got all these organizations are getting funding. You wonder on these protests where they're carrying the Palestinian flags or any flag except the American flag, and they all have these professional-looking signs. They all are they're all super organized, professionally printed. Where do these people that don't look like they've had a bath in a month?
Yeah.
Where do they get the money? and the coordination and the vehicles to transport all this equipment. And then there's videos of them gathering it up at the end, and there's people saying, "Where's my check? Where's my $25 an hour for marching?"
I love their tactical gear. They have more tactical gear than a lot of the police.
Yeah, like that place up that facility in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
They've got, some of them got full tactical gear from the helmet all the way down to their shoe coverings.
Yeah.
All of them got gas masks.
Gas masks.
Apparently,
Professional gas masks.
Yeah, they've got gas masks. They've got all this stuff. And then, of course, they got the ones running around in the dinosaur and the dino costumes, and the ones just constantly, using noise as a deterrent. And it's just, you got to wonder where all that money's coming from. So I started looking a while back, and, Neville Roy Singham started popping up and said, "Who in the crap is this guy?"
Yeah.
We knew about George, because George Soros is doing it more directly,
right?
Donating directly to campaigns, where Neville Roy Singham is like the little kid poking at the parents. Parent.
Yeah, and if you have $750 million, even though he's giving a lot of it away, you can invest that money, and you can also money makes money, right?
Right. Well, and it develops friends that got money, that's got their idea, and you got the leader guy saying, "I'm going to kick up $100 million of my $785 million I got.
Right.
I'm going to give up 15% of my wealth. How much can you kick up?" And then
I can't even fathom the irony, the lack of self-awareness when it comes to the irony here, that this guy is probably is a billionaire in some manners. And
I couldn't find it, but he might be.
Probably close. And he's quoting Mao Zedong. I mean, the idea that you're a worker.
And look at John F. Kennedy over your shoulder with his arms crossed and his head down.
Yep.
Is that what he sees, America from up in heaven? Is this the United States that was here when he was president?
It's not the same party. It's not the same party. And some people can say that, the party of Reagan that's over my other shoulder is not the same. Maybe that's true.
But we don't hate America.
We don't hate America. And I think that's...
And
that's
there's poll after poll that says the United States patriotism is down more than it's ever been.
Yep.
And I don't know how you can... all you got to do is listen to the World Cup fans and watch their YouTube videos, seeing how great the United States really is with their own eyeballs versus what their media, that's probably funded by Roy Singham and George Soros and his son, they always talk negative about the United States.
Right.
But then you see thousands, not a few, thousands of videos from people across the planet that are watching the World Cup here. I mean, it's the best advertising for the United States ever. And they're going to go back to their home countries, and they're going to be telling people how great this country really is.
Yeah. Well, I made a buddy of mine was singing an event this weekend, and he has a long career in the United States military as a singer, and he was singing at the Great American, whatever it is, from
DC,
the county fair, American Fair,
American County Fair, yeah, Great American Fair.
Proud of him. Hey man, really proud of you. And all of a sudden it's 10 bots and different people coming on there with their 300 friends on there saying you should have attended. There would have been 2 more people there. There's nobody there. You all suck. I'm just proud of somebody. Go touch grass. Go touch grass. Like, life is not that serious. But let's talk about where the money went, because it does affect some situations. Code Pink, co-founded by his wife Jody Evans, has received at least $1.4 million from the Singham's network. Code Pink is the same organization that has aligned itself publicly with Iran, Cuba, and the Chinese Communist Party. The People's Forum, a New York...
And Hollywood. And don't forget Hollywood.
Yeah, don't forget Hollywood. The People's Forum, a New York City-based socialist organizing hub, received more than $20 million from Singham's network between 2017 and 2022 alone. Breakthrough BT Media, a video production outlet that the New York Times described as mixing progressive advocacy with Chinese government talking points, is also in the network. So is Tricontinental Institute for Social Research. The Answer Points is also in the network. So all these different groups, which the House Oversight Committee accused in a June 2025 letter of organizing nationwide protests, including the Los Angeles riots. Singham, those were all mostly peaceful, by the way.
Sure they
Singham
were.
himself wrote a 172-page document invoking Mao Zedong's war blueprint to spread communism. Now here's the detail that elevates the story. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent traveled to New York City earlier this year for a meeting with Goldman Sachs chairman and CEO David Solomon. According to sources familiar with the meeting, Bessent delivered a blunt message. Goldman Sachs could face scrutiny for alleged conspiracy in the funneling of Singham's money and was urged to cooperate with federal investigators. The Goldman Sachs donor-advised fund used to facilitate Singham's transfer was actually closed in early 2024. Sources say Goldman is cooperating. Jody Evans is also identified by prosecutors as a target of the investigation, having served as a board member of multiple organizations Singham funded inside the United States. Craig, the United States Treasury Secretary, personally went to Goldman Sachs and essentially laid down the law to the CEO.
Was meet with Solomon? Is that the guy's last name?
Solomon. Yep.
Yeah.
Code Pink, the People's Forum, the Party for Socialism and Liberation, Breakthrough Media, all connected to China-based billionaires who has written Maoist blueprints for waging people's war. And the New York Times documented the CCP propaganda angle 3 years ago. How significant is this investigation, and is it being driven by the Southern District of New York, or are these things politically motivated out of Washington, D.C.?
It's probably being driven by Israel. Because, I mean, that's a joke, of course.
Yeah, of course it is.
That's who'll get blamed for it.
Yeah.
But Roy Singham was accused, and I never saw where they proved it, or if they even could, of fomenting and funding all these Jewish protests on our elite universities across the country. Supposedly they had all their signs and all their stuff and all their gear. Right. And he was the one that through his proxies funded those protests. Don't know if it's true or not, but it was never taken to court, so you can never say it's true or not, proven or not. But that's what the news media, the conservative news media, said it was funded by him. And so I've said it a million times, we cannot be defeated. We, being the United States of America, cannot be defeated from outside. We can only be defeated from the inside. So you've got communists, you've got whatever George Soros and his hating America thing, and then you've got all these other groups, these factions and groups inside the United States that are poisoning the minds of our young people in these universities. I tell you, I'm worried about the country for my grandchildren now that are in my backyard right now. I'm worried what kind of country they'll have when they grow up.
Very fair. Obviously, we will keep folks up to date with this. It's entirely possible that there will be indictments that come out of this. I fully expect that there will be congressional oversight hearings on this now that these things have gotten out, regardless of what happens. That is some pretty heavy news all the way around today. You want to get into some sports?
Yep, let's go.
All right.
Okay, let's go.
Do you have some good news, Kyle?
I don't have any yet, but I will tell you that I have some better news. But before we get to that,
okay,
we have to talk about this.
Yeah, got to.
Because we're now getting to the point where, one is bad, two is really bad. Now we're getting to the point where, 60 different individuals have been indicted in this NBA gambling epidemic. These are, you and I were talking before we went on the air, these are not guys who were playing in the G League. These are guys, combined today, Ed Davis and Malik Beasley, who made over $100
million
combined. Yeah. But this is getting to the point now where you and I are asking these questions of why. Is the mob involved in this? Are there international reasons? What's happening here? And can we trust anything that we're doing when it comes to professional sports? Today, the Department of Justice's gambling sweep of the NBA produced its biggest names yet today, as former players Malik Beasley, who played up until 2025, and Ed Davis were indicted Monday on federal charges out of the Eastern District of New York. The two are among 6 defendants charged with wire fraud conspiracy, bribery in sports contests, honest services wire fraud conspiracy, and money laundering conspiracy. The other 4 defendants, William Brown, Robert Gorodetsky, Ernesto Placencia and Paolo Zamorano. Boy, those names sound like they have a lot of vowels at the end of them.
Yeah, they do.
Who prosecutors identify as Davis's NBA player agent. Davis, Gorodetsky, Placencia, and Brown were arrested Monday. Beasley's attorney said his client has coordinated and cooperated with the U.S. Attorney's Office to voluntarily surrender himself this week. Who are these guys? Well, Malik Beasley is one of the more recognizable names in the NBA draft recently, and in the NBA completely. In the 2024-2025 season with the Detroit Pistons, he averaged 16 points per game and made 319 three-pointers.
Good player.
Yeah, one of only 5 players in NBA history to clear the 300 mark in a single season. He earned nearly $60 million across his NBA career. Ed Davis, a journeyman backup center who played 12 seasons with 8 franchises, earned roughly $48 million and last appeared in the NBA in 2022. And Beasley, he and Beasley were teammates on the Minnesota Timberwolves. You got to look at that entire season now.
Think of what you just said too. Minnesota Timberwolves.
And that relationship, prosecutors allege, became the foundation of this criminal scheme. Craig, Malik Beasley made nearly $60 million in the NBA. Ed Davis made $48 million. Between them, over $100 million in earnings from the sports they were allegedly corrupting. U.S. Attorney Nocella said they turned professional basketball into a criminal betting operation. Before we get into the specifics of what they were doing, what does it say about human nature that men who earned over $100 million are now doing this over $1,000, $5,000, $10,000 prop bets?
I just wonder if they thought it was funny. Like, I'm going to get the bet is stop at 8 rebounds. Okay. Then all of a sudden, they see these patterns. They watch these games. These are people that are in the FBI and stuff are trained to notice these anomalies. Like, why didn't that player get this particular rebound? Or why didn't this player take this shot? And somehow, I don't know how they do it, but somehow in the flow of the game, they see these different things and they start seeing patterns develop. But why would a guy that made $60 million or $40 million ever want to fool around with a few $1,000s on a bet? It reminds me a Kentucky thing of Bop Trot back in the 90s.
Yeah.
You got all these rich guys that are throwing their votes and end up going to prison for $200 bribes.
It doesn't make any sense.
And on this scale, it's about equal. These guys are making tens of a few $1,000s, but they're making $6 million a year, $7 million a year.
Yeah.
I don't know, unless it's the thrill or they just think it's funny and they won't get caught. I don't know. I don't know why they do it. I have zero explanation. It makes zero sense.
Well, Alvy, you're absolutely right. I once saw a guy catch 2 passes in the last 2 minutes who hadn't caught a pass all game long. And the prop bet was that he would catch 2 or more passes. And at that point, you got to throw your hands up and go.
Yeah,
it did not affect the outcome of the game, but you
right. Well,
these guys know. And I said this in a Facebook post a year ago when Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss were at Kentucky, and Kentucky either made or missed a field goal. I can't remember. And immediately after the game, he walks out to the middle of the field and is interviewed by ESPN, and he says, "I'm really sorry that we let that last score get in, messed up the spread." The game just ended. Like,
right? How does he know what the spread is and has that on his mind?
Yeah. It's
you always wonder in basketball games, how are they'll say it's 6.5 points and the team ends up winning by 6, or they win by 7. How do they know that it's going to happen?
Well, I watched the whole thing about how they set those different spreads. It is kind of fascinating, but that's why they're always so close from different.
But it's amazing. Football, baseball, or basketball, they are right on the money every time, and it's like there's no chance. Like Steph Curry couldn't have a bad night shooting.
Right.
All of a sudden he starts hitting a few at the end. Are they thinking about this?
Yeah.
Saying, well, here's the spread. I can kill it. Do I miss the field goal to break the spread?
Well, it's heartbreaking to hear as well. The details in the indictment are specific enough to make any serious sports fan, including a lot of you guys who are UK fans and basketball fans, to be deeply uncomfortable because they pull back the curtain on exactly how an active NBA player can manipulate his individual statistical performance without anyone in the building knowing it is happening.
Yeah.
Here's the structure. Beasley owed gambling debts to Ed Davis. Davis served as what the DOJ calls Beasley's gatekeeper, coordinating between Beasley and the other conspirators. The bribe mechanism was simple. Davis would reduce or pay off Beasley's existing gambling debts in exchange for advanced knowledge of how Beasley intended to perform statistically in specific games. Davis then passed that non-public information to his co-conspirators, who placed bets on prop markets. The scheme allegedly targeted at least 4 specific games during the 23-24 Milwaukee Bucks season. On January 6, 2024, Bucks versus Cleveland, Beasley allegedly tipped his co-conspirators to bet he would grab fewer than 3.5 rebounds. He pulled down 1 rebound that night. On February 27th, Bucks versus Charlotte, Beasley allegedly agreed to score fewer than 12.5 points and grab more than 3.5 rebounds. He finished with 6 points and 4 rebounds. On March 10th, Bucks versus Clippers, Beasley was supposed to get more than 3.5 rebounds. He grabbed 4 boards with literally 1 second remaining in the game. The scheme failed once, a March 21st game against the Brooklyn Nets. And when Beasley didn't deliver the agreed-upon performance, the conspirators demanded Davis either compensate them or get Beasley to manipulate future games. Davis initially agreed to continue. Then 4 days later, news broke that Toronto Raptors player Jonte Porter was under federal investigation for nearly identical activity. Davis backed away. By then, the damage was already done, and the DOJ was likely already investigating him. Craig, 1 rebound in a game where he was supposed to underperform on boards, 4 rebounds with 1 second left to cover the bet. These are not abstract statistical manipulations. These are specific, deliberate decisions Beasley allegedly made during the NBA games, while thousands of fans who bet on his rebound total had no idea the outcome had already been decided.
Rigged.
Yeah, when you hear those specific details, it harkens you back to all sorts of things we've heard in the last 100 years since the Black Sox scandal. Mm-hmm. 1 rebound, 1 second left. What does that do to your confidence in what you are watching as a true NBA fan?
As an NBA fan and as a numbers guy, you question the end of games. You can't help it. Like, remember when they got those college players and they showed you never thought about it until they showed the video and you knew they were throwing the game. Then you see how they threw a bad pass 3 feet over a guy's head, or they missed a down court pass, like they fumbled it out of their fingers. Then you could see that it was obvious that they were rigging the game. It could hurt because this is, like you said, 60 players now.
Yeah. Well, 60 individuals.
Yeah, it could. Well, yeah, 60 individuals, but numerous players now, and big name players like Malik Beasley. It hurts the integrity of the game, and the NBA doesn't need that anymore because they forgot how to play defense except the last 2 minutes of a game.
Well, you and I have always said, and I'll even harken back to my wonderful mother, what she said is that, NBA games, especially in the playoffs, will always get close towards the end because it keeps people watching the TV screens. And, as a fan, I always said, no, it's just these are great ball clubs. These are great athletes. You got to wonder. You got to wonder at times.
You see too many 20 and 30-point comebacks, and you wonder, how can they shoot so bad in the first half?
Yeah.
And then just and the other teams, shooting 60% or better for the quarter or for the half. Then they go down to 20% the second half, and the other team, it flips. Well, how does that happen? Is it and then you wonder about these calls.
Well, it used to be rare. You think about the Mardi Gras miracle. I mean, you think about what happened that night. That was a rare scenario, 31 points down with, 17
But,
minutes.
Somebody posted, well, the refs could call holding on every play in the NFL. That's true. And they save them until the end of the game on a crucial play.
Yep.
And you always wonder, how did they make that call?
Yeah. Well,
why did they make that call?
At that exact time.
Yeah.
Today's indictment does not exist in isolation. It is the latest wave of federal investigation that has now ensnared more than 30 people on the NBA side, more than 30 on the college basketball side, and Brendan Sorsby, who we just talked about last week, who is now not. He's been rejected by the CFL too. So I think he is
He's figured out he's done.
I think he might be done. We'll see. I mean, might be coaching high school football in Texas or something soon. It is the latest wave of federal investigation that has ensnared that many people, including reputed organized crime figures and multiple basketball insiders. In April, former NBA player Damon Jones became the first player to plead guilty in this sweep, entering 2 counts of conspiracy to commit wire fraud for selling insider NBA information to bettors on DraftKings and FanDuel. Some of that information may have been concerning LeBron James and his injury status. We talked about that at one time.
Yeah, pay attention to FanDuel, by the way.
Yeah.
Pay attention to them.
Yeah, a former NCAA Division I basketball coach who now coaches at the Division II level is identified as an unindicted co-conspirator in today's indictment. The investigation is not finished, and here's the larger context every American sports fan needs to sit with. The legalization and mainstreaming of sports gambling, which accelerated after the Supreme Court struck down the federal ban in 2018, and which has been aggressively marketed in nearly every television broadcast,
Yep.
I mean, even your local baseball stuff in the past 5 years, was sold to state legislatures as completely harmless entertainment. The prop betting market specifically, where you can bet not just on who wins a game, but on whether a specific player will grab more
Right.
or less
Anything
rebounds.
you can think of.
You can do it during the game now. I mean, you can
Right.
do it mid-game, which is nothing you used to be able to do before, but it's created a massive incentive for players to corrupt their individual performances in ways that game outcomes alone never did. Malik Beasley was not allegedly throwing games. He was allegedly deciding how many rebounds to grab, and every person who bet honestly on his rebound total was defrauded by that decision.
Yeah.
U.S. Attorney Nikola said it plainly today, quote, "These defendants victimize the sports watching public. That is not abstract. That is you every time you watch Malik Beasley play, while Malik Beasley had already decided how many rebounds he was going to get."
Yeah, they don't throw games anymore. They do these prop bets,
Yep.
and that's where they make their money. You don't see players throw a bet, but now Phil Mickelson and his thing in the PGA, what if it starts in the PGA where you see a guy down 7 strokes on the 4th day and he comes back in and he wins the tournament? Are both players involved? Are both twosomes involved on the final day? I mean, that would ruin the PGA, but it's not ruined basketball yet. But with this volume of corruption and prop bets allowing to happen, I mean, a prop bet would be you're seeing a mouse run down a road and you bet is he going to turn left or right. That's what a prop bet is. It could be anything you can think of. You can prop bet it. And
well, I saw an interesting story that was done last week on Polymarket and Kalshi as well.
Right.
How some
they're
very
getting manipulated.
They are getting manipulated, and not by money, by individuals.
Right. And
it's you got to wonder at some point whether people will be wrapped up in those things. But again, you're just betting on who's going to win an election, or
you could bet
how long Carolyn Leavitt was going to be talking for during the press conference, and she ended 6 seconds or something before it was supposed to end. Somebody wrote Charlie Hustle would be lost in the crowd. I saw a T-shirt the other day that said Pete Rose walked so Brendan Sorsby could run. I thought that was very fitting.
Pretty funny, but these prop bets have opened up all kinds of sneaky things to happen, and they don't have to throw games no more like they did in the past. Yeah, it's not just a game thing now. It's every individual thing you can think of.
I think we will probably hear more folks wrapped up in this. Brendan Sorsby was in college football was one that it's very clear. Everybody knows that he was gambling and betting against himself. Yeah. I will also say that I think you will hear way more of this before you hear less of it. And this is not a new problem. It goes all the way back to, some of the greats at Kentucky, got wrapped up in gambling back in the 50s and 60s. And
remember the $100 handshakes?
Yep. Yeah. And so, it's one of those things where it affects everyone, even though you don't realize it does. And I think you're going to hear a lot more folks who are going to be wrapped up in this. Well, let's get
some good stuff.
Yeah, let's get into what everybody is probably joining us for to find out what we know about this story. We're going to close tonight here in Big Blue Nation because the Nikola Kusturica recruitment has officially gone fully unhinged, Craig.
Yep.
We owe you the complete
every hour.
Yeah, before we get to what happened today, let's give you that timeline here. 3 weeks ago, Kentucky Sports Radio's Jack Pilgrim broke the news that Mark Pope and the Wildcats had jumped into the recruitment of Nikola Kusturica. We even broke in and had a live show on it. The 17-year-old Serbian wing from FC Barcelona, projected by NBA Draft Room as the number 2 overall pick in the 2028 NBA draft. Some folks even said he's a clear favorite to
Number 1, yeah.
Shortly after, 24/7 analyst Travis Branham logged a crystal ball prediction for Kentucky. This is when we broke in with a confidence level of 7 out of 10. Big Blue Nation lost its collective minds for a kid they didn't know about just a week before in the best possible way. 24 hours later, Branham pulled the crystal ball. He reported that Kusturica was considering staying at FC Barcelona and that if he came to college, Michigan and UCLA were at the top. Then Dusty May left Michigan for the Dallas Mavericks. What a mess.
Yeah.
Michigan was essentially eliminated. Then Bleed Blue Network reported on Thursday that, and we quote directly here, it appears that he will end up at a UCLA Bruin, end quote. Their sources told them a verbal commitment was in place, only waiting for a signature and an announcement. UCLA's recruiting advantages are real. An assistant coach with direct ties to the Serbian national team. He's actually an assistant coach on the national team, not the U17
Not a
team.
bad team to be a coach on.
Yeah. And a family that by multiple accounts prefers Los Angeles and Westwood over Lexington, Kentucky, which only means he has not visited Lexington, Kentucky.
Right.
The Herald leader's Ben Roberts said on ESPN Radio, I don't expect him to be here. That was the state of play heading into the weekend. Then today happened. And I want to go ahead and put a pin in that real quick.
Yeah.
I have said from the beginning, I think this kid's going to end up here, and I'm still going to say that. So I'll leave that there. Take the pin out. Craig, the crystal ball goes up for Kentucky. It comes down. Michigan's the leader. Michigan is out. UCLA has a done deal. Ben Roberts says he's not coming. And that was all before today. For the Big Blue Nation fans who've been following this recruitment minute by minute, just as a pure human experience, how exhausting and at the same time exhilarating can this be in a situation like this?
Well, I'm not exhilarated either way because I think we got a really good team as it is.
I agree.
And I don't want to break up team harmony if they throw some ridiculous amount of money at him. But from a business point of view and a team point of view, UCLA would be the last place of all those you mentioned. They'd be the last place I'd go. Yeah, a boring offense, a boring coach, and the highest tax state in the United States. If his parents, if they want him to go to Los Angeles, it's not for basketball.
Who wants to go to Los Angeles?
Yeah.
When you have
UCLA is not a ticket that people want.
Whoa.
You know, this long ago, 1970s, that stuff stopped, 75 or whatever. They're not a must-see Hollywood movie star, go to the game kind of thing, and they haven't been for decades.
No.
But
And that's part of the problem is that they're being sold.
The only thing they can be wooed with is the lifestyle, the people the famous people they can meet, run in those kind of paparazzi circles. But if that's what they want, that's not good for him. You want him to go up against against UCLA and who they play and never get on TV because they play at 10:30 and 11 o'clock at night, or go up against the most competitive league in all of college basketball, better than anything Europe has. I don't care if FC Barcelona or any of them, better than anything Europe's got, and to turn him into a good NBA player, a really good NBA player, then he's got to come to Kentucky or some other Kentucky or an ACC school. And
I will also pick up on what you always put down is that 62% of your income is going to go to taxes. Maybe they don't understand that aspect of it, but if you're making $5 million in Kentucky and you're making $5 million in Hollywood, you're losing a heck of a lot more in California than you're ever going to lose to taxes in Kentucky. They have like sports athlete taxes. So if you play a game in LA, you pay more taxes.
Yeah, and including the fees that the manager gets. I did a run on Grok on a $4 million salary.
Yep.
He would keep, and this is a lot of damn money for a 17-year-old kid. He'd keep $1.77 million out of $4 million. Now, but he comes to Kentucky, and he's keeping $2.75 million.
It's $1 million difference.
Yeah, but if he goes to Texas school, A&M was in it for a minute, Tennessee or Florida, like we've done with Wan'Dale Robinson. Wan'Dale Robinson saved $11 million leaving New York, or was it 9 or 11? It's a pile of money.
Between 9 or 11, depending upon whatever taxes he gets.
If they're doing it for money, then
tax.
I would think they would not want to give it up for taxes.
You would think.
Yeah, UCLA has nothing to offer. You don't get better by playing against weaker players. You just don't.
Well, I will also say this, that over the weekend I had a lot of people commenting on our previous videos and then sending us messages as well saying essentially, we're out of it. I like our team. I still like our team. I want to get that straight right now. I like our team. What I will say is that I have always had confidence that he is coming here. I do not believe any of this mess that Kentucky is out of it. Until a guy signs, you're still in it, no matter what. But I will say this, that earlier today, Trilly Donovan, who is an anonymous X account, but he's very, very good at the information that he has. 100,000 folks follow him. He said that following up here, Kentucky and UCLA is still very much in it, and I believe ahead of Nova. They've kind of jumped in at the last second. I don't think they're in it. Would probably give Kentucky a slight edge right now. This is Trilly Donovan, who is
Villanova's New York, so there goes your money. There goes your money again.
Well, and then
Villanova's Pennsylvania, same thing though.
Yes, another high tax area.
Yeah.
Here's what happened today. Okay. Last night, Nikola Kusturica, the 17-year-old Serbian prospect currently playing in the FIBA U17 World Cup in Istanbul, followed the UCLA basketball Instagram account. Now, within hours, BBN, Internet, and X accounts went apoplectic.
Yep.
Very fatalistic, if you will, in their reactions. I had several people message me, "It's over. The sky is falling." But then, of all of things that happened, at 3:15 Eastern, which would be like 9:30, and by the way, while he's either at a game or in a practice, apparently from what I'm understanding, he unfollowed the UCLA men's basketball team on Instagram.
Playing the game.
I mean, it is just weird. So
is it? You think it's a 17-year-old kid just playing to see what kind of reaction he gets on social media? Because he's 17, he's not 39. You think he's just playing like being a 17-year-old, doing stuff like that?
Well, to be fair, it could mean almost anything for a teenager in the middle of an international basketball tournament, because it's the most analyzed social media activity in the state of Kentucky on a day that has also featured, a number of landmark, Supreme Court decisions and other things. But basketball is king here. That tells you everything you need to know about where Kusturica ranks in the BBN consciousness right now. But here's the piece that actually deserves the serious weight, is that with all of this happening, Trilly then says immediately, earlier this morning, Kentucky's still in it. And I totally agree. We have one here. You're going to put it up there.
Yeah, the whole UK's out. It happened with Milan also.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. In fact, the crystal ball thing and then taking the crystal ball away happened with Milan too. So that's all. The anonymous basketball source on X and Discord, who Kansas State coach Jerome Tang once said is like sitting in people's staff meetings. That's who Trilly Donovan is. Has been giving Kentucky positive play in his recent intel. Trilly's not someone who floats information casually. Meanwhile, Sports Illustrated's Carl Berman reported today that Kentucky seems to be gaining with a 2-year substantial NIL package that multiple sources describe as significant. Now,
hopefully back end weighted.
Jeff Goodman of the Field of 68 has, that take the grain of salt with this, has maintained for 2 weeks that Kentucky remains the clear favorite and that the money UK is offering is, in his words, huge. Jack Pilgrim has said the asking price is tens of millions over 2 years. And the Bleeding Blue Network source who declared this done for UCLA has now acknowledged it's hard for anyone to predict this recruitment, and until that pen hits the paper and fully announced, we don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't pay that much for Kevin Garnett or LeBron James. And Garnett, remember, he was coming to Kentucky.
Yeah.
Till he went, and he's Hall of Famer and all that stuff. I wouldn't pay tens of millions of dollars to one player. And I'm a big UK fan as anybody on the planet.
We live in a much different world than we did just 5 years ago. I mean, who would have guessed that this would have happened? Craig, a follow and unfollow. Trilly Donovan giving Kentucky positive play. Jeff Goodman saying UK is the clear favorite. Bleed Blue Network saying UCLA has a done deal. Carl Berman saying Kentucky is gaining, and a 17-year-old kid currently playing in Istanbul right now who hasn't told anyone what he's actually thinking. Of everything we just said, which single piece of information matters to you the most? Now, before you answer that, and I have to tell people this, Craig has a million views a month on Facebook. I mean, that's very common for you to hit 1 million views on Facebook. So you understand social media. A lot of people may not believe that because, Craig, as the elder statesman of the two of us, has really taken to Facebook over the last couple of years. And a lot of people follow you because you understand the medium. Tell me what you think all this means from a 17-year-old potentially manipulating this.
Well, I'm a long way from 17, but but seeing the habits of what you see on social media, I'm just thinking it's a 17-year-old kid getting his jollies by saying, watch me. He tells his buddies, watch this. I'm going to follow UCLA and see what happens in Kentucky and across college basketball. Then 6 hours later, he unfollows them. Now let's see what happens again, because I'm awake and I don't have my breakfast. I want my jollies before I go play in the tournament game. That's the only thing I can think it is. With Momcilovic, he was completely tight-lipped. And then when he mentioned Kentucky, and Kentucky was the only school that he mentioned, he let it slip in an interview about a week before he signed with Kentucky. Well, I've been looking for that with Kusturica, and just see if he just slips up somewhere and somebody quotes him saying Kentucky.
I know. You've been telling me. You watch.
See if he follows that same path. But I think it's honestly, I think it's just a 17-year-old kid having fun on social media.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I will say, however, that there's folks from the UCLA side and folks from the Big Blue Nation side who are saying, if it happens, it happens. Totally agree with that take. There's also people who say we don't want him, we don't need him because
well, we can use him. Ain't no doubt about that.
You're tired of following a guy you didn't know anything about 2.5, 3 weeks ago. Yeah. Trust me. Let's talk about what this kid's doing right now.
Oh, he's good. He is
while
very
all
good.
of this social media chaos is happening in Kentucky and Los Angeles, Nikola Kusturica is in Istanbul playing basketball, and the numbers he's putting up are making every single scout there take notice. Every recruiting analyst, every college program, they are all sitting with their ears up now.
Let me interrupt 1 second.
Yep.
He is 17 years and 2 months old.
Yeah.
He's playing against grown men.
Yeah. 6'8", potentially 6'9", they'd say. Kusturica, through his first game at the first couple games at FIBA U17 World Cup, their victory over Venezuela on Saturday, Kusturica leads Serbia in 4 of their 5 major statistical categories: 18 points per game, 5 rebounds, 2 blocks, 2 steals, and a team-high efficiency rating of 19.0. He is the most productive player on a Serbian team that is widely considered one of the 2 or 3 most talented rosters in the tournament. The FIBA Power Rankings entering the tournament called Serbia a legitimate threat to end the United States' perfect all-time record in U17 World Cup competition. The Americans have never lost a game in the history of that competition, winning all 7 previous tournaments. The tournament runs through July 5th, quarterfinals on July 3rd, the semifinals obviously on July 4th. The gold medal will be on the 5th. A decision on Kusturica's college choice is expected sometime immediately following the tournament, which means Big Blue Nation has roughly 6 more days of Instagram surveillance.
Right. Instagram, Twitter, everything.
Yeah.
You got alerts on his name across numerous things to see what pops up. And I would love to have him on our team. He would be a massive addition, especially at 6'8" guard.
Kentucky, I understand, and from the folks that I'm talking to, I wouldn't even say it's a hang up, but Kentucky is adamant that a guaranteed second year is a part of the contract negotiation.
Because
So
he can't explain why he has to have a second year, Kyle.
So he is still 2 years away from being eligible from an age perspective. So you have to be 19 or a year after whatever your last year of high school is. So that means he just turned 17 in April. I mean, this kid just turned 17. So he would not be eligible for the NBA draft this time next year.
That's why a 2-year contract.
So that's why a 2-year contract. Kentucky law complicates it a little bit more because the parents have to sign everything. He has to essentially.
Isn't that in every state, though?
It is, however,
unless you're emancipated.
In Kentucky specifically, you have to essentially re-sign all the documents. You have to basically agree to everything that has happened immediately after your 18th birthday. So,
okay,
there's more bargaining power, between your 18th birthday and when all this other stuff happens. It's a little bit different the way contracts work. A lot of states have the 18 majority, but that's a little different, in Kentucky as well. My take, I genuinely don't know where he's going. I have a feeling he's going to end up here. I've always said
logical. Yeah, just logical.
I believe he ends up here. I believe Jamal Crawford ends up here. I believe you hear both those at the exact same time, and it is
one day apart. 1 day apart, so they
maybe 1 day apart.
Yeah,
but so that they can each have their own, media cycle. But
exactly.
At a time when Kentucky has a little bit of momentum going into the season, it would be huge to hear this. We didn't know this kid 3 weeks ago. Now that we are, they're maximizing their price. As someone who represents people in business negotiations, I don't blame this family at all.
Oh,
now,
no.
do I think they make more money in Kentucky? Yeah, but
and we've seen the videos. We've shared videos. This guy, he's a number one. He is up. He's going to be a great player. He's already a really, really good player.
Yeah.
But we got to see how he does against SEC competition. And like Pope has told every player, they got to earn their minutes.
They got to earn it.
Mason Williams said that again this weekend on the interview.
I've heard Mason Williams is a dog.
Yeah, he said, hey, coach told me I've got to earn my minutes. I'm not guaranteed nothing. Now, if UCLA guarantees him 32 minutes a game, that'd be the only reason he'd go there.
But his people are wanting minute restrictions his first year. So that doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, they don't want to get pounded in American basketball.
A couple of NBA things before we get out of here. It looks like Ja Morant is headed to the Trailblazers.
Who cares? As long as he can go to Houston.
As long as he go to, I know you're very happy he didn't end up at Houston. There were some Houston boards that thought he was going to end up there.
Well, they were wanting it.
Yeah. After last week, we didn't get a chance to report this, but Giannis ended up in Miami. Tyler Hero able to go back home to Milwaukee and play for his hometown Bucks. It sounds like the Golden State Warriors are making a final push and probably hear something in the next 24 hours on a LeBron and AD reunion down in Oakland.
Yeah, and you see where Here
comes Jen.
Yeah, sorry, Jen. It slipped. Trying to think. One of the big players for Golden State, the defensive guy, Draymond Green. Yeah, he backed out of his $27.2 million re-up on his next year, even though Golden State fully expected him to. So now the speculation is that he's going to take less money because he's worth just gobs and gobs of money.
I'm going to say something that's probably unpopular, even for these. And I know we have a ton of basketball bros who are watching this and ladies.
Yeah.
I would rather them get rid of Draymond Green and bring back Klay Thompson if they're going to make another run at this. I know Klay Thompson, the Klay Thompson of
old. You got to have a defender because Seth Curry doesn't, like I've said to other players, Seth Curry doesn't know what D means.
That
may have somebody that'll guard their guys underneath and get a few technicals and mix it up with the guys.
A few?
Well, hey, however many.
Charles Barkley likes eating a few cheeseburgers.
Yeah, but he fits their team perfectly. He'll be in the Hall of Fame, even though he's not a big point scorer. He'll certainly be in the Hall of Fame, and he's going to give up money, supposedly, what they're saying, so that they can sign. Because LeBron is not going to sign. If he stays in Los Angeles, he'll make $60 million. But if he wants to win a championship, he's going to have to take less money.
Well, and let's be honest, the Lakers, if they want to be competitive, they need to move on from LeBron too. They need to free up.
And remember, Luka gets 12 and 15 technicals every year. Luka Doncic,
because he does this all the time.
Yeah, he gets his.
I'm a huge
players that get
big Luka fan. Just shoot. I'm a huge Luka fan. Just shoot the ball, dude.
If Draymond gets texts, Luka balances him out, getting the same amount.
Yeah. Gosh, I don't know. I will tell you all this: if any big news comes through on the Big Blue Nation side, we will hop right on and we will bring you all of the news.
Big smiles on her face if it's
big
good.
Smiles
good
on her face,
news.
one way or the other. And I hope that smile is Jamal Crawford as well. I still think the J and the K in the picture means something.
Because if Crawford signs, then with Williams, then we've got two legit NBA stars. One of them is NBA champion.
Yeah,
and they're going to be able to do some massive recruiting, and I hope we can keep them for 4 or 5 years before they go into the head coaching job.
Yeah, I mean, what a great opportunity right now.
We could win some championships with those guys.
We absolutely could, and who knows where else this leads. I mean, we already talked about the fact that Shaq's going to be in town this fall. Yeah. His daughter being here. How fun is that going to be? Maybe the round mound of rebound. Charles Barkley. I was just kidding. Chuck, come to Kentucky. You come down here. We'll
he likes Kentucky.
Oh, he loves Kentucky.
Yeah.
You mentioned Draymond Green. Almost ended up at Kentucky.
Yep.
Committed to Kentucky until he got home, and his mom.
We've had a lot of almost that turned out to be NBA superstars.
That's what happens when you're a blue blood.
But then Calipari gets here, and he's created, I think there's 29 players in the NBA. Well, I know they exactly are because I've got them on a list.
Plus the 2 that were drafted the other night. So you'll have.
Well, there's 4 over his 2 years. So altogether, we've got 29, about $2.2 billion in NBA salary. World championships, multiple MVPs, multiple all-star appearances, multiple all-NBA first team, second team. We've got some great players in the NBA. And if you want to follow an NBA team, there is probably a UK player or more on the team.
Yeah. Well, anything before we get out of here tonight, Craig?
No, I'm going to go watch the grandkids swim.
Well, you enjoy it. Craig, as always. Through the historic, the alarming, and the moments that only Kentucky basketball can create, this show ticks because of you, my friend. To everyone watching and listening, thank you guys for watching us. If you have got anything out of this, make sure you like, share, and definitely subscribe. Hit that notification bell.
Because we're going for 2. We want to get 2,000 pretty quick.
We're going to hit 2,000 really, really quick. We're still gaining. Just like I said, we're in the top 10% of shows our size, so we're really excited about that. To anyone else that you could share this with, it costs you nothing, but it means a lot to us. So we really appreciate everything, and thanks you guys for checking us out tonight. Until next time, make sure that you stay informed, stay sharp, and stay above the noise. Everyone have a great Monday evening. Stay cool if you're in the Bluegrass State. Talk to you all soon. Goodbye.